Hey guys, just tell me what is the feeling after a game like that where you have a very strong start and then end up, coming very close to making a comeback at the end. What are the emotions like right now?
We're not good enough, and we have to get better to win any more games the rest of the season, and we're disappointed that we're not there yet, but we're going to get there.
It's a very disappointing feeling, like Cole said, but that's just how football goes. You got to fight with the ebbs and flows of the game, and Tulane has a great team. We knew that they were going to make plays at some point in the game, no matter how hot of a start we came out with. So, just being able to balance that and be a better team and figure things out, but we didn't do that today. And like Cole said, going forward, that's something we got to do if we want to win more games.
Matt, go
ahead. Just for you guys, especially in that fourth quarter, when you're down in that position, but you guys are able to show resiliency. I mean, what's the feelings like for you guys? Do you feel like it's almost too late, or do you feel like, okay, we were able to put something together, we were able to show that we're not going to back down easily, even though we didn't get off the win, we were able to still put together something that move forward with?
It just speaks for the type of culture that we have on this team. In the fourth quarter, you're down 21 points. It's easy to just kind of pack it in and look at the clock and get ready to go to the locker room. But that's not the type of guys that we have in our locker room. That's not the type of coach that we have that thinks that's okay. So we're going to fight to the end, and anybody that plays us knows that, and that's what we're going to do. It's going to be a four-quarter game no matter what the score is, and that's just how we do it here at Army West Point. It's how we play football.
I was just going to ask Cole, the quarterback you played, Justin McMillan, really had a quick release. He was spreading the ball around the field. What were the challenges that he gave you and your defense?
Yeah, they had tremendous athletes all over the field, and he's a great quarterback. I think he did a good job of spreading us out. Their offense did a good job of spreading us out, and we'd think we'd be inside, and then they'd break outside. So huge credit to their team. They got really good players, and they had a good scheme against us.
Kelvin, on that very last play of the game, there was a lot of guys that were coming at you, and you refused to go down, and you kept fighting. What was going through your mind in that last play? I know that the cannons even burst before you got brought down there.
Try and make a play. Just do whatever I can to put us in a position to score points. That's kind of my mindset. Try and get the ball off if I could. Couldn't. Just try and get as many yards as I can going towards the goal line. I knew, it was going to be a hard run, generally, but just trying to make plays and try and get points on the board whenever we can.
Kelvin, you got an early score after the fumble recovery by Eric Smith, Connor's touchdown, but then you struggled in the first half, punted a couple of times. What was really tough about the Tulane defense in the first half?
Tulane they're a great team. They play really hard. They have a lot of athletes, but one thing about Tulane and their defense, they know what they're looking at. The D coordinator was with Coach Monken at Georgia Southern, so he went against this every day. They play Navy every year. They're in the same conference. They know what they're looking at. They know how to scheme against us, and I think that was exactly what it was. You got to be ready when you throw a punch. You got to be ready to take a punch back. And that's exactly what they did. They came out and got a couple 3-and-outs out of us, and we knew that was going to happen at some point, that they were going to figure it out and settle down and start playing us pretty tough, and that's exactly what happened.
ahead, Matt.
This question is for Elijah. On the defensive side of things, there were obviously moments in the game where they were able to really get things going. You guys had a couple of good possessions on defense, but it seemed like it was kind of back and forth between when they would, break through and when you guys were able to stop them. Just talk about maybe the major differences between what was going on those major drives where they were able to get touchdowns quickly versus when you guys were able to stop them.
We got outworked. We weren't getting off blocks, and we couldn't finish tackles. That's all it was.
Justin?
For Elijah or Cole, why do you think the defense struggled so much today when you guys have been a strength of the team the first 4 weeks that you guys played?
We got to practice harder. We're not working hard enough before the game, so we can't play effortlessly during the game. We just got to do better going forward.
Higher attention to detail.
Let me ask you about the two drives you had. The first at the end of the second quarter when you went down the length of the field, and then you came out and you had a good drive at the start of the third quarter, 75 yards. What was working when you got those two drives together?
Just finding the formula. A heavy dose of fullback. I think that was probably the biggest thing with those two drives was just getting the fullback going up the middle and sustaining drives. I think I feel like with every drive, once we get 2 or 3 first downs, it gets a little bit kind of rhythm. Start getting in the rhythm. O-line starts hitting and fullback starts hitting, and then other things start to open up. And I think that was just the story of those two drives. Once the fullback started hitting, other things started to open up too.
A couple more, Matt.
Just for everyone's answer, obviously, this is the first game of a 7-game stretch, so it's obviously one of those things where you can't really reflect. You have to sort of, turn it around quickly. What are the things that you're going to be focusing on in those next few days to just put this loss behind you, try and fix the bad things, and move ahead towards Western Kentucky?
Having the humility to look at our mistakes and get better, and then just getting better fundamentally, because right now we're not where we need to be.
Last one, Ken.
I'm just going to ask Elijah Cole, why was it difficult to put pressure on the quarterback today? Elijah, you were doing, past games you were able to make a couple of quarterback sacks, but it seemed like they had a very big line. They were tough to rush.
We just weren't getting off blocks, getting to the ball. There was no QB pressure, so it was 7-on-7.
Ken.
Coach, you got off to a good start with the fumble recovery and the touchdown, but then Tulane scored 3 times in a row. What was it tough on defense to stop Tulane in that first quarter?
We couldn't tackle. We set a all-time record for missed tackles in the first 2 drives. I mean, we had 6 or 7 missed tackles in the first 2 drives alone. Couldn't tackle him. A lot of times we had him stopped, and he just wiggled his way out, and off he went. Very poor technique and fundamentals. We looked very poorly coached. They just had their way with us. Whatever they wanted to do, they had their whole playbook. They could just pull out their play sheet and say, "Hey, we hadn't run this in a while. Let's give this a shot." They could do whatever they wanted.
Coach, the decision to go for 2 after the Jamari Moore touchdown, is that something that you regret at all?
Nope. The analytics told us to go for 2 on the first one, told us to go for 2 on the second one. And I go by the analytics. And if I try to say, well, I don't believe in the analytics on this one, but I'll take the analytics on that one, we wouldn't have been 31 or 36 on 4th down last year. So that's what we do. And there's a smaller percentage that we're going to make 2 there. But to score, if we get 2, we put ourselves with the opportunity. If we score, we kick an extra point to win the game at the very end. The percentage goes way down if you're trying to score 2 to win the game on the last play. And so we tried to get 2 on the first one, and the second one, and I even asked, I said, we'd go down by 8 if we kick it. And it said, analytics says go for 2, down by 9. It's not a recommendation, it's a go for it. And so that's what we did. And I believe in it, and I'd do it again because that's what it tells us to do.
And then, Coach, the offense punted several times early in the first quarter after the first touchdown, but then you got the offense to run a complete drive in the second quarter and then starting in the third quarter. What did you change that made the offense effective?
We sustained blocks a little better on those drives, and we had a difficult time doing that all day. And so we were hit or miss on 1, protecting our quarterback, and 2, opening the seams for our guys to run the football. The perimeter game was not very good at all. We missed some blocks on the perimeter and got strung out, and guys got through. I mean, we got people accounted for them. They either didn't block them when they were supposed to, or they didn't sustain the block or use good fundamentals to keep them out of there. So, again, we got to do a better job of preparing them and coaching them so that they do those things well, and we've got to perform, and we've got to do the job and what we're supposed to do with great fundamentals. We didn't do that.
Coach, for you guys, especially when there was a close game, were there any particular plays or maybe a series of plays that maybe you, in terms of just the execution or maybe the play calling, that you sort of regretted, or do you feel like just the feelings that it's really just about the effort as a whole?
No, I don't know that there's any regrets. I mean, we can second guess it and say, well, they had this defensive call. This would have been a better play against that defensive call. But I'm not on their headsets, so I don't know exactly what they're going to be running on defense. So, we had a lot of different formations and felt like we had some good things. And the bottom line is, you got to block them. If you block people and keep them blocked, it's really hard for them to tackle you. And when they get off of blocks, they whip a block and beat you, and they tackle you. That good for them. I mean, they made some plays. They got a really good football team, a physical team, a well-coached team, athletic team, and like I said, they whipped us.
Starting off the first of a 7-game stretch, in terms of just the next couple of days and moving forward and trying to build off of some of the things you might want to have changed, is there any sort of way or focus to get the team back into that focus mode for next week against Western Kentucky?
Our guys are focused, and I can promise you I'm focused. And the only thing we got to do better is block and tackle. It's not play calling. It's not it. Every play will work if you block people. Every defense will stop them if you'll get off a block and tackle. It's not like we got bad calls or, oh my God, we all of a sudden we're doing something completely different. They rushed for 324 and we rushed for 193. We're a running football team. We got to run for more yards than that. And if we're going to play good on defense, you can't give up 324 yards rushing. So that's what we got to do. Run the ball and stop the run. That's what we build our plan, our philosophy as a program is to do those two things. We didn't do them today. You know what? A lot of it had to do with them. They're a pretty good team. And like I said, they did a good job blocking us, and they did a good job of getting off of blocks, and we did a poor job with our fundamentals.
Coach, I know it was nice to have Kelvin Hopkins back in the lineup. He passed it a ton today. Is that something you knew you had to do coming into this game, was throw the ball a lot?
No, we thought we'd have to run the ball. And I think if you look historically at our teams, at least since I've been the coach here, if we're throwing the ball a whole bunch, it's usually not good. And if we're throwing the ball a whole bunch because we're winning by a bunch, and that means we probably got 300 and some yards rushing, and we're doing it because everybody's just pouring in there on the run, and we feel like we can protect the quarterback, and we're whipping their butts. That's not what we do. And so he was running for his life enough today for, I think, everybody to figure it out. And you come to practice every day. I mean, if we're going to have to throw the ball, we're going to be in trouble. We got to run the ball effectively. That's what we do. And by running the ball effectively, that should then open up some opportunities for play action passes for us to be able to complete those. He completed some passes certainly down the stretch, but they're playing back and trying to keep everybody in front of them and just try not to give up a touchdown. And it's a whole different philosophy at that point defensively than it is in the first quarter. So we hit some pass plays. We thought there would be some play actions that we could get some guys open on, and we did. We had a guy running scot-free wide open, and they rushed a guy off the backside that we couldn't account for. So it's hard to do everything, be a good running team, and be a drop-dead passing team, and we got a bunch of guys that try their hardest, and they're tough, and they play really hard. But you know what? They had some really good athletes, and they did a good job when they had to rush the passer of making it really tough on our guys. And so, hey, it's I'm glad we hit some passes because it set up some scores for us, and we made some plays doing it. But where we're going to make our hay is running the ball.
Any more questions? Ken?
Just going to ask about the sequence in the fourth quarter. Ortiz has a nice kickoff return, 45 yards, and then you get into a 3rd and 6, and he gets the ball and he's running left Hobbs, and he gets tackled by the linebacker Graham for a 5-yard loss. And then you did the reverse on 4th and 11, and it didn't work.
Tried to throw a reverse pass.
What happened on the 3rd and 5, though? It seemed like that linebacker was unblocked and just really broke up the play.
I don't know if he was unblocked or not. He shouldn't have been. We've got somebody to account for him, but I didn't see where he came from. And at that point, we were going fast, and I didn't look up to watch the replay, or if there even was one. I'll look on the film. But we had another block that we had a guy that was accounted for, and he was blocking him, and he got off the block. So even the one where we had the lost yardage play, Hobbs made him miss. He ran out of the tackle. We just didn't have anything sustained outside of that. It's hard to sustain those blocks that long, but I'm sure we had somebody for him and accounted for him, and he might have just run right through somebody's headgear. I don't know.
You said that you guys struggled blocking all day. Your offensive line's relatively healthy. Is there changes that you think need to be made to that side of the ball?
Block better. Maybe play guys that aren't as athletic. I don't know. I can assure you, there ain't a guy on that team that, they got smart guys at their school, and we've had this conversation before. Yes, those guys that trade places and wear a uniform every day and go into the Army after they get done, they'd give you a high sign. You know what? They got athletic guys, really good players. I'm not saying we don't have good football players. Those guys can play. They're fast and athletic. And so when somebody's bigger and longer and faster and more athletic, you better play really, really, really well with great fundamentals every single play if he's not going to beat you. Because physical superiority cancels all theory. And you know what? Our guys are trying their butts off. And we can play better. We can do better. But you know what? They're tough and they're athletic and they're fast, and they just whipped us sometimes. And that's just the way it goes.